So Jaiprakash Narayan gave him the idea that, see, there are this group of people, retired army guys, who don't have a job after they retire. Can you help them get job? That's how the whole idea of SIS started. So it was very organic. It wasn't that he had a target in his mind that I have to reach so much of revenue in 5-10 years. I need to raise so much funds. There's nothing like that.
Even the chairman of the company, everyone could approach him and he himself would meet even the security guards, their families.
So he would just take his car, travel, go and visit these employees, live with them. They would be living in camps and very ordinary circumstances. He would go live with them. He would cook food for them. He would prepare. His khichdi used to be very popular.
Completely unheard of in business.
In business, yeah. So that was his way to, one, connect with his people. Second, to understand how they were doing.
2002, the company had a revenue of just about 100 crores.
Yeah.
And then we saw a big push being given by Uday Singh and his son Rituraj. It grew by leaps and bounds. So from 100 crore of revenue to about 14,000 crores, which is remarkable. And there were instances when people ran away with cash. As
Exactly. In the initial few years, there was a lot of cases of pilferage. There were instances where the van driver will scoot away with the cash.
Yes.
And these were like in 30-40 lakh rupees.
Right.
Some of the pilferage was about in couple of crores. And in one instance, I remember where this SIS employee got in hand with the bank employee and made this this kind of they scooted with the money.
Hello and welcome once again to Kitabi Baatein, a podcast where we make sense of India and the world through books. I'm your host Abhishek. Friends, if I ask you which is one of the biggest private sector employers in India, as in those who hire the largest number of people, you will come with answers like Infosys, TCS, maybe Reliance, or some other similar company belonging to some big business group. While these answers are correct, chances are that you would not have heard of the company called SIS, which is one of the biggest private sector employers in India, employing about 3 lakh people. And guess what? This is a 50-year-old company. It's listed on the stock exchange, and it is started by a person who interestingly had no intention to enter into a business. He started this business basically to help people. This business, SIS, was started in the times of a socialist regime when profit making was considered a bad word. Yet the founder, Mr. R.K. Sinha, chose a different path and today became one of the biggest security services firm into India, which provides security, cash management, and facilities management. To discuss the book, The SIS Story, which is authored by Prince Mathews Thomas, a leading journalist with 22 years of experience. Today he is a guest on my podcast show, Prince, and we'll discuss the SIS story with him. Prince, welcome to Kitabi Baatein.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to be in Delhi.
Thanks. So as I read your book, I'll be honest, I did not know much about SIS.
Sure.
I thought, and when I started reading that this is one of the biggest private sector employers in India, just by reading that I realized, no, I have to read this book. How come I didn't know? How come a company which has 14,000 crores in revenue and
That's
yet
right.
very less people know about it?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, you covered the book, you covered practically every aspect of a company about which people know very less. How did the idea of writing a book on a company which is not much known to people?
Yeah, it so happened that about 12-13 years ago, when I was writing for Forbes India, that was the first time I came across Mr. R.K. Sinha and Rituraj, his son. By that time itself, SIS had done some really good work, and my interest was because of an acquisition they had done in Australia. And this was a company which was 7 times bigger than SIS. So it was a very unusual acquisition. No one really takes such a big risk of acquiring a company that is 7 times bigger than you are. And that's what my interest was then. And since then, for the last 13 years, I've been tracking SIS, talking to Mr. Sinha and Rituraj on various capacities. And then 2017, like you mentioned now, it got listed on the exchanges.
Yes.
So there's always been this high interest in this company from an investor point of view now.
Right.
And then this conversation happened last year that SIS, is coming to its really big milestone, which is the 50th year. And the idea came about putting everything in a book. And because I've known them and this transition from the first to second generation, transition from a local neighborhood business into a multinational,
Right.
there were many threads to this story.
Yes.
And there were a lot of people's story, a lot of color, a rich material for a book. And that's how this idea came about.
Interesting. And when you talked about the acquisition, I think that was an acquisition which was perhaps somewhat bigger than Tata's acquisition of Chorus, because they're acquiring company almost 7 times
That's
in
right.
revenue. So that's again an interesting aspect, but I was surprised to see that not many people know, but thankfully we know it now, thanks to the wonderful book we have written. So coming to the SAS story, as the initial pages I read, and I realized that this was a company which was born in very unusual circumstances. This business was started not with a mindset to have a business and make profits, because
That's right.
that was the era of socialism. India had a love with socialism, and profit making that time was considered a bad word. And it
Yeah.
was with a social motive that this company was started. So could you tell us a bit about the initial starting days of the company?
Yeah, sure. So Ramdar Kishore was like you said, those days with a social mindset. And I like the way you said, because profit making was not seen as a good thing.
Right.
And it so happened that he was a journalist to start off. He used to do political writing. He had covered the Bangladesh war. It so happened that he lost his job that he was doing. And through these years of his journalism, he had gotten in touch with Jayaprakash Narayan, who was a very well-known political figure at that time. He's well regarded even now too.
Yes.
So Jayaprakash Narayan gave him the idea that, see, there are this group of people, retired army guys, who don't have a job after they retire. Can you help them get jobs? Now that you have time, you don't have a job, why don't you do this? That's how the whole idea of SIS started. It started from trying to do a social good. Ravindra Kishore had no intention of setting up a business or starting a company. But it just so happened that he wanted to do the help that he was doing in a good way, in a proper way, in a structured way. And when you do something like this, you need a formal organization.
Yes.
You need to follow, because you're providing employment, there are documents to be done. So you need to follow local regulations. So it just happened organically that SIS as a company was formed, and it started expanding. It got contracts.
Right.
So it was very organic. It wasn't that he had a target in his mind that I have to reach so much of revenue in 5-10 years. I need to raise so much funds. There's nothing like that. And I would also like to add that he was not from a business family.
Yes.
It's not as if, in the dinner table, they would be talking about business and revenues and numbers. And it's not that he was from a very well-to-do family either.
Right. And no formal business education also, as you said.
Exactly.
Right.
So not an MBA graduate. He had done his graduation. And in the startup world today, we talk about seed money and things like that. But there was nothing of that sort at that time. So that's why we say an accidental entrepreneur. So there was no intention to become a businessman.
Right, but he did, and we all know what SAS is today.
That's true.
So after the initial phase, when he started with more of a social cause, as I read your book, I realized there can be 2 phases of this business. One was till the time Mr. R.K. Sinha was at the helm, he was managing everything, and his son was kind of being groomed. Yeah. And when he started taking a larger role in the organization, post 2000-2002.
That's right.
The first 25 or so years were marked by a growth which was, although not very high, because you mentioned there were at times issues related to even the payments of salaries, and they did not extend to all parts of the country. It's only with time. They don't move into new businesses such as cash and all. Yet one of the things which I noticed in those 25 years was that it was marked by a family-like culture.
That's true.
As you said, even the chairman of the company, everyone could approach him, and he himself would meet even the security guards, their families. So that culture of care was there, and I think that was the hallmark in the first 25 years. So if you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so it's a people business. Because a security guard is the product and at the heart of this business. And you're providing guards as you're deploying them at different sites. And to start off, it was mostly in very interior places. It was in factories, in manufacturing places, in mines. And so most of this, while the business was founded in Patna, much of the people who were deployed were all in the interior areas. As a business person, what Ravindra Kishore's entrepreneurial instinct was underlined by this liking for his employees. He was a natural in interacting with people, connecting with them, irrespective of which hierarchy they were. And he made this habit of traveling to the sites. This could be 100, 200, 300 kilometers away. And we are talking about 1970s and 80s, where travel wasn't easy. So he would just take his car, travel, go and visit these employees, live with them. They would be living in camps and very ordinary circumstances. He would go live with them. He would cook food for them. He would prepare. His khichdi used to be very popular.
Completely unheard of in business.
In business, yeah. So that was his way to, one, connect with his people. Second, to understand how they were doing. He was almost taking a kind of a feedback, doing a report, a ground report about how the business was doing, how the people were doing, were they doing well, were they doing correctly as per the client's requirement, was there anywhere they could improve. Plus, this could also was an opportunity for him to look at other clients around the area.
Right.
So he would go and visit these people. So this connect that he had with people was a very natural thing for him. It comes from a management point of view, a very good thing to do, but something very natural for him. This focus on employee satisfaction and taking care of your people became kind of like you said, the family culture that SIS built over the years.
Yes.
It also helped that he had a great memory. He would meet you today, and if he meets you 6 months later, he would remember your name. Mm-hmm. He would remember your family members, what they were doing, what have they achieved now. He used to inquire people. So his employees saw that the chairman was taking so much effort to knowing about them, about the family. So that connect was there.
Right.
And that's why, in the history of SIS, and though it was such a people-centric business, they never once had a labor union problem.
Right.
Because Ravindra Kishore himself used to say कि जब मैं हूँ तो union की क्या जरूरत है.
Right.
And he was plain speak in a way, but it was also very instrumental because anyone, when the phones came, could pick their phone and call him directly.
Yes.
Even the guard in the ground. So that access, that understanding, keeping the employee as the center of your business, that helped build that culture. And later on, as business expanded and they started having branches, he empowered the branch managers with something called the founder's mentality, wherein each branch manager was asked to act like a CEO. Because he was responsible for the P&L of that branch.
Right.
How do you do your sales, your marketing, your operations? So that was also part of this, employee-centric culture that SIS built. And that's now lasted with the second generation when Rituraj also took over. So that's been the fulcrum of the SIS culture that is there.
Right. So no wonder they say that the culture always starts at the top, and I think
That's
that's the best example.
Yeah.
Another thing I remember from the book was that when you said about branches, so when one of the companies were doing due diligence on them, they said that they had already had a branch level audit, something which was made mandatory much later, but they were already doing it. So we see that along with the values, with the culture, they also were very particular about running the business. They never let it run like a social organization. So they did balance the part of the family culture and the balance the part of with the business sense in mind.
That is true.
So now one of the things is, interestingly, in all these 25 years, we saw that, as you mentioned, in 2002, the company had a revenue of just about 100 crores.
Yeah.
And then we saw a big push being given by Uday Singh and his son Rituraj. It grew by leaps and bounds. So from 100 crore of revenue to about 14,000 crores, which is remarkable. How do you see that transition? And I'm talking especially about transition because we all know that in family we always see feuds. If not in every business, but in many businesses. Yet this was an example of a very smooth transition, even when outsiders were involved. Because Uday Singh, he was not a part of part of the families, but Uday Singh and some very senior people were there. How do you think this transition was managed?
So it came to a point where Ravindra Kishore was a people's man. He used to like networking. He used to like meet people. So he had a very prominent social life too.
Yes.
And which had also had a political aspect to it. And he wanted to come to a point where he wanted to spend or give more time to his social and political life. And that was the time around the 2000 when, and he was in search of a professional CEO because he wanted someone whom he could trust, he could hand over his business, And his mind would always go back to Uday Singh.
Uday Singh.
And Uday Singh was his childhood friend. They were just about a couple of years apart. Studied in the same school. Their families knew each other. And over the years, they had kept in touch with each other. Uday Singh had gone on to create a very good corporate career.
Yes.
He worked in national, multinational companies. And he was very good in setting systems and processes for a company. And that is something I think Ravindra Kishore also realized that SIS needed. While it had done very well, it had a system of collating and conserving data. He had brought in computers in the 1980s when it was unheard of. And he understood the importance of tech. So he wanted someone with all this. And Uday Singh seemed to be the right candidate. With a lot of discussion, initial apprehension from Uday Singh's side, they both communicated, and then he convinced Uday Singh to come and take over. Uday Singh had a condition saying that, see, I have my own ideas, you have your own ideas, we have a great relationship right now, but I don't want us to have a friction or difference of opinion, because then I won't be able to do my job, you won't have your say, and this relationship that we have, that will get broken.
Right.
So Ravindra Kishore did one thing which was very, very critical, which is he said, I won't come in between you and your decisions. I will give you a free hand. I think that is something very rare, because he was just 25 years into a business that he had created.
And giving carte blanche to an outsider that, okay, you manage.
You manage it.
Right.
That's very rare for any entrepreneur to let go.
Yes.
Which he was able to do.
Something which you nurtured on your own.
Exactly. And all these are very tough years, to bring it to this level. So I think that was a remarkable trait that Ravindra Kishore had. And Uday Singh turned out to be an excellent choice, because SIS was at a stage where it actually needed a dose of professionalism.
Yes.
It needed those systems and processes to be created. And to be honest, SIS was struggling a little financially, because there were phases where they ran out of money to pay salaries. There was this new competition in G4S, a multinational who had just entered the industry and was getting all the marquee clients. Even clients that SIS had were started slowly drifting to G4S.
And they were a much bigger company than SIS.
Much bigger company. They had the experience of working in a much developed economy and a lot of money to spend, which SIS as a smaller Indian company couldn't match. So this was a very, very important juncture in both ways. So I thought this step that he took, Ravindra Kishore, was an excellent step that many thought may not work out, but eventually it did.
It did. And along with that transition, the family of like choosing the right candidate, as we just talked about. I think one of the transitions was also, bringing in modern equipments, computers, enabling more processes. So earlier they didn't have ERP, now they had ERP. Right. Now such things are always resisted more often than not at the employee level, especially when you had many old timers working who are retired from the army or from bureaucracy and all. So that transition is also very critical.
It is.
Because people typically, as I said, don't like change, especially when their processes and everything. I remember there were news of the murmurs of, the government employees not happy with the biometric attendance system, for example, which was implemented couple of years back. So how you think that transition, other than one part was the family transition, how you think this transition, because when you had to communicate this to every employee, how this was handled, and do you think how well they handled it?
Well, it was tough for Uday Singh, because now he was suddenly surrounded by senior people who worked with Ravindra Kishore for 20-30 years.
Yes.
And here he was not replacing Ravindra Kishore, but at least he was there he was the guy who would be taking the decisions now.
Correct.
So to get them comfortable to himself and also become comfortable to them. And he was a newbie for a security industry.
Yes.
He hadn't worked in security industry before this. So he had to be very careful in how he would engage his senior colleagues, the junior ones down the rank, and how he would instill confidence, which he went about doing very well. He accepted that he didn't know about the sector. He had to learn first. And he created that rapport that he would learn from those who are around him.
Right.
That kind of broke the ice and instilled confidence among the people. And then down the ranks, wherever he would go, and he traveled quite a bit in the initial months, going to the sites, meeting people at the branches, he would train them.
Yeah.
Now, that not everyone liked, because till then, he used to go everywhere with a laptop.
Yeah.
But people would think, what is this? Why would you need laptop in a security work?
firm.
What is the need for a laptop?
Right.
And there was resistance in using a laptop. They were resistant in implementing ERP, in
Right.
trying to understand the basics of how to create a business plan for yourself. There was quite a resistance. But slowly, when they started seeing the difference that this was making, for instance, in using laptop, your communication became so much clearer and faster. In creating a business plan, they started seeing the results in a year or a two, when the business started growing in locally and then across. From 2000 to 2007-10, the revenue grew 4x. Branches grew from around 13 branches to 100 branches. So this visible change in the fortunes of the people, and I think the most impactful change was that people started getting salaries on time.
On time, yes.
So now for first time in their lives, salary coming within 5th of a month or a 10th of a month became a predictable thing, which
Right.
had never happened before.
Never happened earlier. Right.
This also affected them, a positive change for them personally. And I think that really turned the corner for all of them, and they started seeing this change.
Yes. So when we talk about the second phase, 2002 onwards,
Yeah.
we know that from 100 crores they moved to 14,000
Yeah.
crores. They made many acquisitions.
Yeah.
Do you think somewhere during this, was there any dilution in the company's culture? Did it become anything a profit-seeking organization with less regard for, the employees? Something like that had happened? Do you think it has successfully able to maintain that family culture in this all 50 years?
You know what, Ravindra Kishore, amazingly, in hindsight, one wonders how he thought about it. But he was also in the 1980s, he had started something like a training academy.
Yes.
So, which was a first time a security company in India, and some people say even globally no one had thought about
Right.
an importance of a training academy.
Center.
Today it looks like a very normal thing,
Right.
but back in the 80s it was something very different. What he did was, to make the training academy sustainable, he would charge fees.
Right.
Now that is also unheard of. But he knew that unless this training academy itself is sustainable, can meet its own cost, it will be an overhang on the overall business, which is anyways not making too much of money.
Right.
I'm citing this example to show that while doing social good, he also knew the importance of sustaining something.
Yes.
Something that is not making money, profits can't last for too long.
Correct.
That went hand in hand with this culture also, building the culture. And this training academy again played a very important role. They also added a training academy for the officers in sustaining this culture. Because not only were they getting trained on how to do the jobs better, to be physically fit, but this family culture that Ravindra Kishore had started, that got instilled and ingrained and probably institutionalized with the training academy. That went in hand.
Yes.
And I think I would give credit to Rituraj for continuing that.
Right.
Today it's a huge organization.
Right.
Like you said, 3 lakh people, branches in India, overseas. But that culture that is there, they have made it the fulcrum or the central point of everything that they do.
Correct. So when you talk about the second phase, they had many challenges while growing. First of all was the security business, that
Yeah.
many people knew about it. And that was true for the prospective investors as well.
That's
It
true.
was not a very well-known business. In India, it was even lesser known.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there was requirement of capital and everything. And they started making acquisitions.
That's
And
right.
as you mentioned, and again, it's very atypical of them because, as you mentioned, 13 out of 14 acquisitions did well.
That's
Something which is extremely difficult for any company in any industry. And yet
Yeah.
they did that.
Yeah.
So the second phase, we see a lot of equity dilution, and equity dilution, again, as you mentioned, Mr. Sinha was not in favor of,
Yeah.
diluting the equity after it
Yeah.
was his child which he nurtured.
That's right.
So how did that go, especially in regard to dilution and the major acquisitions that did, if you can explain that?
Sure. So after Rituraj joined, and he joined as a under Uday Singh, and Ravindra Kishore had asked Uday Singh to mentor Rituraj.
Yeah.
So they had that kind of a relationship then going. And one of the things that Rituraj took upon himself was to do the financing part. Because he realized that all the ideas that he had come with and all the plans he couldn't do it without finance.
Right.
And while a security business is a very low capital business, that's why anyone can start a security business. It doesn't really create a lot of cash or wealth. And getting funds was always a difficult thing. So he would reach out to, they were based in Delhi. He would go to Bombay, other places, reach out to private equity investors, bankers. Sometimes he would get appointments. Sometimes he won't get. If he would get appointments, it would get cancelled by the time he reached the place.
Right.
People weren't taking him or SIS very seriously. So that was a very, very challenging period for them. What really worked for them was this acquisition in Australia.
Chubb was
The
the
Chubb,
major, yes.
yeah. So the Chubb was selling his security business in Australia, and they were one of the contenders. What helped there was this that State Bank of India agreed to loan SIS to finance the acquisition. That was very instrumental, and that happened because SIS was an old client of SBI.
Yes.
And the person, the senior officer who was in charge of SBI's overseas lending unit, he had known Ravindra Kishore and the way of his doing business, his importance to culture, systems, processes. And he was very impressed to see how Uday Singh and Rituraj had come in and made changes in the company.
Right.
And their ideas to do this acquisition, what they planned to do, it kind of worked well with this SBI senior executive. And that's how they agreed to lend the money. This actually changed the face for SIS, this acquisition in Australia. Because not only did they acquire a company that was 7 times bigger, but within a couple of 2-3 years, they turned around the company in Australia.
Right.
And the Australian business became like an engine of growth for SIS in India also. They got private equity investors, they got D Shaw, they got CX partners. And they got very senior officials of Securitas to come in and become individual investors in SIS.
Right.
So that period from 2007 to 10-12, there was quite a change in a way they could access finance. And that really helped them.
Right. So that was a period of expansion of corporatization.
Yes.
And also one thing I wanted to ask was their entry into the new business of cash management and facilities management.
That's right.
Now, typically as a layman, they may consider them to be one business. So it's arrangement of, security people, because cash management is somewhat related to securities.
Right.
Then facility management, we typically club them under one umbrella, that okay, because we have people being provided.
Yeah.
Yet when it comes to running the business, these businesses are completely different businesses.
That's right.
So how you see their acquisition of on starting of this cash management and facilities management business? How did it impact SIS as a whole?
Yeah. For Rituraj, one of his, when he was in college doing his MBA in the UK, one of his project was that he would start a cash management business in India. So that was his project itself.
Right.
When he came to India and joined the business, it was always his idea to start this cash management business because he thought that it works as a diversification for a security business. Like you said, some of the reasons are similar.
Right.
And they started the cash management business, but it was a struggle initially.
Yes.
Because one, they were new to the sector, and sector already had few companies who were very well entrenched. And SIS was finding it difficult to break into that space. The breakthrough happened when they managed to get Prosegur from Spain, which was among the Europe's biggest and among the world's largest cash management company, to come to India as a joint venture partner. So they created this JV, and under this JV, what helped was that Prosegur, with all his experience, brought in the technology, the know-how, and helped them build the business. And that's where it started taking off. And that's how the cash management business came in. It's kind of related with the security because the basic service that you're giving is of security.
Security, yeah.
But then cash management is slightly more complicated business because you're handling cash here.
Yes.
And you're moving cash from one place to the other. Later on, they got into gold handling also. And many more value-added services.
That's a bit of more dangerous thing to do. And there were instances when people ran away with cash, as
exactly,
you mentioned. Right?
Exactly. In the initial few years, there was a lot of cases of pilferage. There were instances where the van driver will scoot away with the cash.
Yes. And there were instances when people ran away with cash, as you mentioned. Right?
Exactly. In the initial few years, there was a lot of cases of pilferage. There were instances where the the van driver will scoot away with the cash.
Yes.
And these were like in 30, 40 lakh rupees.
Right.
Some of the pilferage was about in couple of crores. And in one instance, I remember where this SI's employee got in hand with the bank employee and made this, and this was kind of they scooted with the money. That kind of reduced after SIS Prosegur came in, because they created systems, softwares which would ring fence the operation against all this pilferage.
Right.
And that mattered a lot. And I think getting Prosegur and creating this cash management business, which had a higher margin than a security business.
Yes.
And that has had its own journey. Today, it is among the largest in the country, and soon is going for its own listing.
Right. So, as you have studied SAS in detail, you have been a business journalist since more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
Now, there are other companies which also talk of a family-like culture, and
Yeah.
yet we see this company which started with humble beginnings, which had acquired businesses later in the first 25 years we talked about.
Yeah.
What do you think? And yet, not only did they sustain despite facing issues such as cash crunch,
Yeah.
which actually brings many companies down.
Yeah.
Not only did they sustain, but they grew very well.
Yeah.
What do you think is what differentiates SIS from other companies?
Yeah, I think this focus on employee and second on the clients. And what has happened is that it's not that SIS was the first security company or the only security company to diversify into cash
Right.
or facility management. There were other companies also who have done similar things. But what I think marks SIS very differently from them is that one is the employee centricity of the company.
Right.
Second is the client servicing. There are many instances, even before that, when Ravindra Kishore himself was helming the business. They would go beyond their brief to help their clients and help their clients come out of a very sticky situation. Even with the coming of technology and bringing in cash management, facility management, the servicing of the client, evolving the business, and the offering a lot according to the changing requirement of the client. I think that was a very, very important area of focus for them. And that differentiated them from the others. And they also grew. They brought in facility management, they bought a company in Bangalore, in Bombay, and they added capabilities around, along with these acquisitions. And that helped them in their offering and make their business proposal much stronger to anyone.
Right, because I think you mentioned it in Mumbai, they moved quite late.
That's true.
They had done good work in other cities,
That's right.
other areas, but in a city like Mumbai, which supported a lot many companies which would be needing guards, they moved very late. So we see the expansion, the growth taking place. It's not that they grew for a certain couple of years.
That's
that
right.
thirst, that hunger to grow was already there. And as you mentioned, they were able to manage both their values as well as the prospects of their growth, and that's what perhaps differentiates them.
That's true.
So if we talk about future law, like Mr. Rakesh Sinha is no longer involved in the day-to-day task, and it is son who is managing. How do you see the business for the industry and for SIS in particular?
So now there is the security business, there is the cash management and the facility management. All three of them are now professionally run.
Right.
While Rituraj continues as the group managing director, there is also an overall chief executive officer in Dheeraj Singh, and each of these businesses have their own heads.
Yes.
So it works like a very professionally well-run group that you would see anywhere out there. And that is the SIS of today, where they have scaled in each business. I think in facility management also, they are the second largest.
Yes.
And they have grown overseas. In Australia, they turn around the business that they acquired. They became number one in Australia. They expanded to New Zealand. They are among the bigger ones in New Zealand. In Singapore, there were initial challenges when their joint venture partner didn't turn out to be as successful as they had thought of. But they have turned around that also. And Singapore also, they are a major player.
Yes.
So all this has happened today, and that's where SI is today, where it has scaled each of its businesses. It has listed the security business. It's now going to list the cash management business.
Right. So, and as your book suggests, it came up with a lot of challenges every time. Yet they managed to overcome the challenges. What do you think, considering the future wherein we are seeing things like AI,
Yeah.
more regulations increasing, tariffs and everything, and given that SIS has business spread across countries,
Yeah.
what do you think are likely challenges for a company like SIS?
As much as tech is their enabler and strength or a strong point, it will be the challenge because all of these services that they are in today, security, cash, or facility, everything has become very tech enabled.
Yes.
So, as long as they're able to keep up with the changing technology, which means that should be able to bring in more talent, which knows that know-how, the capability to develop their own software, which they do today. I think they have to keep doing this.
Right.
It's not like a one-off thing that you do today and then you can forget. The test is that how can they sustain this
Yes.
through the years.
Exactly.
And that will be the challenge for them, and that will what will mark them from the others too. That is going to be a big challenge. And second, I think the challenge would be to, we talked about the culture.
Yeah.
And a founder's culture, or it is somehow when the company scales, it becomes bigger.
Right.
Sustaining that culture becomes even more difficult.
More difficult.
And Rituraj clearly says that one of his biggest priority today is to sustain that culture in the in the business, because even while he continues as the GMD, he's not been able to be in touch with as much people as he would have liked to because the scale is so much.
Right.
So how does he intervene or continue to have conversations with his people so that the culture that the company has never kind of fades away or fizzles off? And he's identified that as one of his priorities. And he is, in his way of, he will take a workshop, he'll go meet people. In fact, there are instances when he travels to a city, when he lands in a city, he will ask the local branch manager to come join him, sit in his car, travel with him and just speak with him.
Right.
This is his way of keeping in touch with people. There are instances where in one of the northeast states where he was staying overnight, and he went to his hotel. He saw the next door establishment was guarded by an SIS employee.
Right.
So he goes and sits with the employee. It is a winter night, and the guy doesn't know it's Rituraj Sinha. And Rituraj speaks to him, asks him, "How are you doing? What are the challenges in your?" And that employee says that it's winter. The bigger officials have their jackets, but mere paas to bas yahi ek hai.
Yeah.
So which struck Rituraj, and he went back, and then through their vendors they created specially designed thermals, overalls for their employees who are they're working in extreme conditions.
Right.
So he has developed his own way of being in touch with his people when he's traveling or otherwise, interaction with lower management, middle management, senior management people, and that's how he's sustaining this culture.
Right. Of course, I must say a very, very unusual way of running a business, because as you said, when companies expand, they kind of lose touch with people.
Yeah.
It's more process oriented.
Exactly.
Whatever is there is a process for that, or there is an app for that.
That's true.
We say things that, but being connected with people on ways other than the tech is becoming very rare, and
Very
yet
rare.
there's a company which is able to manage that, sustain that approach.
That's
You also talked about the crisis it faced during demonetization.
That's right.
They are in cash management, and there was no cash.
Yeah.
So if you can tell a bit about that, how did they manage that?
Yeah, there were two very big challenges they had. One was the demonetization, and then in the pandemic.
Yes.
In demonetization, the problem was they were into this cash management business, and suddenly overnight demonetization happened. And it struck them that this is going to change a lot of things, because the night itself, when the drive was announced, he got call from RBI, from Finance Ministry, because at that time Rituraj was heading the industry association.
Yes.
So they created a war room, they created a team, and SIS, because it was one of the bigger players, and I think even 1/3 of the ATMs in the country were managed by SIS, and they had a huge amount of fleet also, the vans that we see on the road. And this was a tricky exercise because the 500 and 2,000 rupee currencies were banned, which meant that the cassette that you have in ATM, which brings the money out, it had to be redesigned, and new ones had to be brought in, because the new currencies, their size was different. The dimensions were different.
Yes.
And you had to do it in such a large scale across the country. And remember, the public is losing patience because they can't withdraw money. If they can withdraw, they can withdraw only 1,000 rupees a day.
Yes.
So this was an exercise that had to be done on a war footing and a very, very short deadline. And that's something that SIS, along with other players in the industry, did really well. Rituraj took the lead because he was the association representative, and SIS, because it was one of the larger players, played an instrumental role in demonetization.
Right. So of course that was definitely a challenge, and for a company like this who is into working with cash day in and day out, and when so it's like that raw material, the product is not there.
Not
so
there.
what exactly do you do the business with?
Yeah.
Well, so any lessons you think for future entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs you can take from essays? Though I personally there are many, but as you are the author of the book, what lessons do you think it holds for future entrepreneurs?
I think the lesson I would really mark out is, I mean, we say the successful things, good things that's happened, but also need to know that in SI's journey, there were a lot of challenges. I mean, like I said, we discussed there was challenges in paying salaries. There was a time when they have done 13 out of 14 acquisitions were successful, but there were also deals which didn't work out.
Yes.
Where Rituraj was shown the door. And then this pandemic, where Rituraj for a while, because pandemic was even more hurting than cash management, because when offices are closed, people are sitting at home, they're not moving. When trains are not running or the buses are not, everything is closed. Then there's no need for a facility management, there's no need for a security.
Right.
So suddenly one day after the pandemic, the whole operation of SIS came to a standstill. And there was no cash generation.
Yes.
And SIS needs about, I think, 300 to 400 crore every quarter to pay salaries to its employees. And the problem for Rituraj was where do the money will come from.
Exactly.
So that was almost an existential crisis.
Right.
But, and you'll read in the book that led by Rituraj, SIS actually turned around, created this crisis into an opportunity, and despite the overall economy shrinking, many businesses shutting down or struggling, SIS actually at the end of the year grew.
Yes.
I think that was a remarkable example of how you face crisis, challenges, but you find opportunities in them and then not only survive but do come out better.
Right.
And I think that is the lesson here of entrepreneurship, because it's not an easy job, because you're responsible for yourself, the business, the people, and in this case 3 lakh people and 3 lakh families.
Correct.
That's quite a lot of pressure to be to have.
Of course.
But I think Rituraj has shown that how to, like I said, create opportunities of the crisis I think that's the lesson I would draw from the book.
Right. So I must say it's a wonderful book. I went through it. I really loved reading it. I just wanted to ask, how much time did it take you to write the book and get it published?
Thanks so much. Yeah, it was a project in itself, because and surely you would also know, because you've interacted with so many authors. Writing a book is almost takes about a couple of years from the thought to getting it to get it into the stand. But we had a very tough deadline, because this 50th year milestone was there, and we wanted to hit the stands during this landmark year. And we had less than a year, and we started the whole process in November last year, and today we are here at the end of November, and with the book in our hands. So the deadline was short. There were a lot of conversations, because 50 years of a company means a lot of people who are involved with the company, within, outside. So I had more than 50 conversations, and to process all the conversation, condense them into a book, because there are a lot of things that I had to omit.
Yes, of course.
So that is the whole process that is there. So it took a lot of time. Writing itself had to be completed in 2 to 3 months, which is also tough. But yeah, quite a challenging project. But it was extremely inspiring, because I also got to meet a lot of people. Ravindra Kishore Sinha and Rituraj Sinha themselves are great personalities, inspiring figures. But the people within SIS, those who have worked with SIS, very interesting, inspiring tales. It was a very rich experience.
Wonderful. But I think writing and getting a book published in a year itself is an achievement. So all those who are watching this is do watch this podcast, and I think this is one book every aspiring entrepreneur should read. Everyone should read, irrespective whether you're an entrepreneur or not. It's very difficult to have a business like what SIS did. It's a 50-year journey, and I'm sure it will be there for the next 50, 100 years as well. If we really want to take inspiration from real life incident of a person who started from scratch and built an empire without any formal business education, this is a story you must read. Prince, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. And once again, I must congratulate you on writing this book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.